All right, welcome back to the 7th episode of the Reserve Squad podcast. Today you have Cameron, your host, Andy and Tyler with us. Unfortunately, Frankie cannot be here, but we have a lot to discuss with the complete wrapping up of English football or soccer with the FA Cup final. Arsenal winning 2-1 over Chelsea. Lot to discuss and kind of break down on that, and we'll get to that. But we're also going to go ahead and do a Champions League preview and to the quarterfinals with everything going on. So let's go ahead and get to it. First and foremost, Andy, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well, my friend. Glad I'm not Anthony Taylor right now, but I'm ready to break down this game and all of its trials and tribulations.
I like to hear it. How about you, Tyler? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, I don't have much to follow that up on, but I'm feeling good. I'm ready to dive into this, and I think it's going to be a fun episode.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm doing good. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. Let's go ahead and get right into the FA Cup final. 2-1. Arsenal beat Chelsea. There's a red card. There's a lot of maybe discrepancies and fouls that were called, and there's going to be a lot of talk about this for a little bit. Anthony Taylor might be, disbanded or banned in West London for a little bit. Chelsea went down to 10 men. With a Kovacic penalty or double yellow in the 73rd minute. Also, there was a penalty in the first half given on Azpilicueta. So Aubameyang puts both goals in the back of the net for Arsenal. Pulisic, the American, scores for Chelsea. Gets on the board, then gets hurt with a hamstring strain. So a lot going on. And it wasn't the most enjoyable game, I would say. I've watched better games between the two teams. But Tyler, go ahead and start us off. What's your take on the FA Cup final?
Yeah, I thought, a little bit disappointing in terms of the way it all went down. Obviously, somewhat controversial. I think it was a classic case in where Arsenal was just destined to win, or said differently, Chelsea was destined to lose. There's no way that you lose arguably your best defender to injury right now with the way their form is, probably their best attacker to injury, and maybe their best midfielder to a red card, all in the same game, and still find a way to win. I think the cards were a little bit against them. I also think, as far as where the value was, I think the game meant more to Arsenal, being able to not only get a trophy for Arteta, but also qualify for Europa League. I think it meant more to them as opposed to Chelsea, who's already in Champions League and has already kind of looked at the season as a success, given the factors that they had to go through without transfers and different things. And Frank being in the season that he was in, most people, I think the consensus is that he's done a good job, whereas Arteta had some question marks over him. And I think it just in general was bigger for Arsenal. At the end of the day, they get a 2-1 win. Aubameyang gets a trophy, and I think that that's huge too for him, because there were a lot of question marks swirling around him and what his future looks like at Arsenal. And I think the way that they started to come together a little bit at the end of this season, end the season with a trophy, I think that they're making their case to keep him. They made him captain. He takes the PKs and leads them to victory. And I think that he should stay, and it should be interesting to see what happens. But that's an important point too. But overall, it was just one of those games.
Yeah, it was a final game. Fans are not there. It was a finals game. They always don't live up to the hype, in my opinion. Every once in a while you'll get a great one. But I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think it was important that Maitland-Niles started on the left side for Arsenal, because honestly, he's just been man marking everyone up and down that side. He stopped Mahrez, and he's had a good Project Restart for them. Andy, anything you took away from that game?
Pretty much bouncing off of what Tyler said earlier. I mean, I don't think either side played particularly well. I think that there was a couple good moments from both sides, but at the end of the day, it seemed like it was just an Aubameyang performance that was the separator between the two teams. Anthony Taylor, I don't think didn't have the best of games, and I definitely think that there were a couple questionable calls there. But putting that aside, at the end of the day, Chelsea weren't looking that great, and then obviously having Pulisic go off injured, as well as Pedro, Azpilicueta. But I think Azpilicueta going off was definitely the game turner for that moment, because then Frank had a couple issues with switching formations, because with Frank being on the field, he's able to go to a 4-man back as opposed to the 3-man back. So I think that caused them quite a few issues. But at the end of the day, Aubameyang had a great performance, and I think Jorginho had a couple moments where he just looked a little bit lost on that Chelsea side. Chelsea are kind of a quick-paced team where they like to do ticky-tack passes, and a couple times I caught Jorginho just kind of holding the ball a little bit and slowing the tempo down, and I don't think that's really good for Chelsea's build-up play. But credit to Arsenal, they came up with a 2-1 victory, and they had everything to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before you on this podcast, even you had made the statement that when you look at what's going on at the end of the day, Luis had a good game. Martinez getting into getting a cup for his team. He's been there 10 years on loan all the time. It's very important to the side. And honestly, when you look at this Chelsea lineup, what they went with Jorginho and Kovacic in the middle and Mount out wide, I don't want to say it's new to them. It's not. But having Reece James in the mix too, and having Zuma in the squad instead of Christensen, to me, there's a lot of mix-up in the actually Chelsea squad. And I think it's important that at the end of the day, Arteta's had the same lineup other than Mustafi being injured since Project Restart. So, it may be switching a winger here and there. So it looks like a consistent Arsenal side that looked like they were used to playing together. And Chelsea, to me, looked a little rattled in that. Also, Andy, before the podcast, you had said that Anthony Taylor, right, maybe questionable calls, but VAR wouldn't have overturned those anyways. They were right on the edge there. And so, you can't blame the ref if you're Frank Lampard, I think.
Yeah. I think for me with Anthony Taylor in the situation, you're right. The first yellow card on Kovacic could have gone either way. Like you said, VAR isn't necessarily going to overturn it. The second one was, after we watched the replay, it's a little questionable. A lot of these calls were questionable, but I think it's just a tough situation in a lot of those opportunities there. I'm not sure the yellow card was necessary in a final game and the hype that it had. I think that he could have kept the card in his pocket on one or two or even three occasions. I did agree with the PK call. I think that he got that right for Aubameyang, and I don't think that had any controversy to it. For me, it was just I think he was a little card happy, and that would be my biggest complaint. And at the end of the day, when Kovacic gets the short end of the stick on a card happy officiating game, it becomes a questionable story. But I do agree it's tough to say that VAR would overturn any of that because it takes a lot to overturn something like that. But for me, I think it was just a little bit of a card happiness that kind of changed the tone of the game as opposed to what I had expected it to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more high-powered, high-scoring, fun to watch, a little bit more offense than there was. But it was a little bit more careful, kind of everybody on their toes type of game and who's going to make the first mistake or most mistakes situation. Which to me isn't as entertaining, but you still have the same chess match and the tactics there. But at the end of the day, all I've been hearing about is Anthony Taylor this, Anthony Taylor that. I do think you got to give credit where credit is due, and I thought Arsenal played well, especially Aubameyang. That second goal he scored was an incredible effort. Zuma is just he's still
shaking in his boots.
That.
I think he's still shaking right now.
Yeah. I think Aubameyang. People don't forget he's one of the best strikers in the world, but I think people forget how much he can change a game.
Yeah.
And he did that for years at Dortmund, and I hope he stays. And honestly, I do. I think Arteta is a great coach to be under right now, and I think everything looks good. Hope he stays and makes magic happen again and again and again. But who knows if he goes? That's a good transfer episode when we get more details on that contract being signed or not. But all right. FA Cup is done. English football is done until September 12th, just so you all know. Let's go ahead and start moving into Champions League. So first two games happen on Friday the 7th at 3 o'clock Eastern. You have Juventus, an Italian team, and Lyon. And then you have Manchester City versus Real Madrid. So Lyon is one of the only two French teams left in the bracket. And they're up 1-0 on Juventus. So they're playing the second leg of the quarterfinal. What that means is they won the first game 1-0 at home. Now they're going to Juventus, and that game happens this Friday, August 7th. Andy, anything to look out for at this game?
Yeah, I think so. I think the two big things that you're going to have to look for in this game is going to be watching Moussa Dembele and Ronaldo. Dembele's got 22 goals so far in 42 appearances so far this season, whereas Ronaldo's got obviously a crazy 35 goals, 7 assists, and 45 appearances. So I think those are going to be your two biggest goal threats throughout the rest of the game. But to be honest, both sides in recent games haven't been as particularly lethal as you would have expected. I know Lyon obviously played 120 minutes in the French Domestic Cup, and they weren't really able to come up with any goals in that game and much production at all. So it's kind of a little bit worrisome going into the Juventus game. But Juventus also haven't been in the best of form. I know they just secured Serie A, so I think they'll have a little bit of hunger in them. But to me, I think this game is going to boil down to the Ronaldo factor, and I happen to think that that's just going to be a little bit too much for Lyon in this game. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. Tyler, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's 2 or 3 things to look out for as well. Obviously, one of them being the Ronaldo factor, and I'll touch more on that in a second. But for me, you got to remember what's going on with away goals in Champions League. Not a lot of people who follow FA Cup and different things. Away goals aren't always a factor. And what they are in Champions League, for those that don't know, is they're a little bit more valuable than just a general goal. Because if the second leg ends up being tied 2-2, for example, then the first tiebreaker is whoever has the most away goals. So if someone has 2 away goals and the other team has 1 away goal, the team that has 2 away goals is going to be the team that advanced. There's no extra time, there's no PKs, no anything, unless they're tied on away goals too. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind for all of these matches, but especially the Lyon and Juve match, because Lyon's 1-0 lead is a 1-0 away goal lead. So Juve has to score twice in order to be able to win this game. So it's an interesting situation that they're running into. I do think, and I'm going to go back to, I think it was either last season or the season before with the Ronaldo effect, Juventus had played Atletico Madrid, and they were down, and people thought it was going to be impossible for them to come back. And Ronaldo came out with the most crazy individual performance, as he has done in Champions League for a long time, and just ended up eliminating Atletico Madrid. And I think it's going to be the same story this time. I think Ronaldo's just a little bit too big in Champions League for a lot of teams, Lyon included. And no matter what form you're in, even in the downward form that Juve has been in recent games, I think you look at a guy like Ronaldo, and he's just going to step up when it comes to Champions League, as always, and he's going to be as clutch as can be, and I think they're going to advance. And the last thing I think is important to look for in this game is going to be a situation where you have multiple players for Lyon and the whole team in general in a downward spiral. Not spiral, but downward form, and Juve in the same thing. I think it's an opportunity for whoever comes out on top of this game to turn it around and be in better form moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. To me, everyone talks Ronaldo this, Ronaldo that, and as you know, he deserves that. He really does. I think it's important to remember that Higuain's on that team as well. And Higuain will show up in big games, and he does like to play alongside Ronaldo and Dybala. So, I really do think it's going to come down to firepower, even though Lyon, they're playing Juventus at the right time here. Unless they get a goal in the back of the net early in the first half even, I think it's over. I think it's going to be important for Lyon to take advantage of the situation that Juventus is in, which is bad form, and, make the most of it. But at the end of the day, we'll see where it goes. Ronaldo's tough to beat. He literally won Euros for Portugal, So it's just crazy what he can bring to the table. And we'll see. Time will tell. By this Friday, I think we all are going to be reading headlines that Juventus has been shocked, or it's just going to be the regular standard headline, Juventus moves on, right? I think Ronaldo pulls out the bag. 2 goals, they win 2-0, quite honestly. And let's go ahead and move on to Man City, Real Madrid. So this might be one of the juiciest games you can think about, when you look at who's playing who right now. To me, I think City has the 2 away goals, right? They're up 2-1 on aggregate here against Real Madrid. Normally with fans, I think that would play a big weight. But I don't know what they can pull out the bag. Pep Guardiola is going to have a lot of fire under him. Real Madrid just, captured La Liga. It's the perfect storm to make one of the best quarterfinal games of the season. Real Madrid need to get on the board early once again. I don't know. I really don't know which way this is going to go. Tyler, what do you think? I'm thinking a draw.
Yeah. So real quick before I get into my thoughts on City and Real Madrid, I do want to correct myself. Lyon's goal was not an away goal. Their first leg was in France. Their next leg is in Turin for Italy. But it's still important because Juve did not get any away goals.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to correct myself on that. But yeah, with this City and Real Madrid game, for weeks now. I have not. I've been back and forth. I have not really known where I wanted to go with this. A lot has been going on with City and Champions League and the rumors with the whole UEFA ban and everything. Now that that's really off their shoulders, the sky's the limit for Manchester City. I think they're a pretty heavy favorite in Champions League to go all the way. But I think the key thing is having that 2-1 lead. Because for me, Real Madrid has turned it around. They've been playing much better in recent weeks. And I want to have my gut feeling say that Real Madrid's going to come out and play at their tip top and be in their A game and really take it to Man City. And I do think they're going to give City a run for their money. But in the end, I'm just not sure that Real Madrid's going to have enough against the Manchester City team who is deep. They're fairly healthy. They have a 2-1 lead, and it's 2-1 and away goals. I just think it's going to be too much for Real Madrid to come back from. I think even if it ends in a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw, I think Man City is going to be able to keep up and either draw or get a win to secure themselves into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, definitely. And before I get to you, I think I also with Leon, and with you stating that Leon also hasn't played a lot of games, so interested to see how that affects them against Juventus. Andy, what is your City Real Madrid thoughts, predictions? What do you got for us?
I think this is going to be a pretty open game, but I do happen to think that what's going to be hindering City is going to be their defense, because their defense has not been great in recent weeks, and I think that's going to be the biggest weak point that Real Madrid are going to want to exploit. Now, having said that, I do think that City is going to win this game. I do think it's going to be a 2-1 victory for City over Real Madrid at the Etihad this time. But the only reason why I say that is because Real Madrid did just come off of winning the La Liga. They probably haven't been playing a ton in recent weeks, and City has been, Pep Guardiola is going to be on fire following the reverse of the CAS ban. Or the UEFA ban, sorry. So that he's going to have his team mentally prepared and ready to go for this game. And I think ultimately the mentality he's going to have his team in this game is ultimately what's going to be the factor that'll lead City to victory. But I do think that Real Madrid can score an early goal early on in this game and really put City on their heels and make this a really open match. But it'll be interesting to see. But I do think City will pull this out again, 2-1.
Yeah,
I hope it goes to overtime.
I do too. With the way everything's going on with extra time and like the MLS and there's nothing being played, it's all straight PKs. I really want to see an extra 30 minutes and just, see them just tire themselves out for a goal.
This is going to be midfield. This is going to be a battle of the midfield, and that's why I think City might have this a little bit. I think they're a little bit more sprightly, have a little bit more youth to them, and ultimately I think that's where this game is going to ultimately be played.
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about Rodri before, and I believe in our previous transfer episode, and how good he's been for City. He's going to be my X factor for this game, because if he can play in that holding defensive mid role and really hold down the fort against the midfield that Real Madrid have with guys like Modric and Kroos, even Casemiro, if he's healthy running the show there, I think it's going to be interesting. But I also think if he can get the job done, Man City is going to be set up to counter pretty well, and I think that's what this game's going to ultimately turn into, and one or two counterattacking goals, and it's over.
And that's kind of my thought. Like, I just don't know who's going to get on the score sheet for Real Madrid against City. When I look at it, I just don't know who's going to make it happen. When you look at City, you go, look, Sterling's hot. Gabriel Jesus was hot coming into this right now.
Yeah.
De Bruyne's had the best year probably of his career when you think about where he's playing and the level he's at. So I really don't think I just don't see Real Madrid scoring, whereas I can picture City throwing on another 2 goals.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, if Sterling comes out like he did in that FA Cup semifinal against Arsenal, though, he was not converting any chances and was not playing well at all. And I think that you could definitely see that side of Sterling. You don't see him too much like that, but if he has a bad day and all the chances that De Bruyne is setting up for him won't mean anything. And I think ultimately they need to put chances in the back of the net, and they won't have Aguero to do so either.
Yeah, watch out for Benzema in this game. You talked about not knowing a Madrid player that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Benzema's a guy that only needs one chance. You mentioned Sterling not finishing all of his chances. Benzema gets one chance and he puts it in the back of the net. He's always been that good. He's a little bit underrated. He's got that poacher mentality in front of the goal. And if he comes out and scores and Real Madrid scores first and early, the whole situation gets flip-flopped on its end. It's going to be fun to watch.
Definitely. And you know what? With Benzema, like, he's probably, when you talk about poachers, there's only he's one of the strikers that everyone wants to play with. I think Andy said, City's the midfield's gonna be important here, and I just don't see the link up play happening. But to your point, one shot is all he needs. So he might be able to sneak one in, but I just don't know. Do you guys have a prediction for this game? Any score predictions?
Yeah, I said it would be a 2-1 victory, City over Real Madrid in this one. But it's a tight game, and it could go in any direction.
I think it's going to be a draw. I could see it being a 1-1 draw.
Same.
I think the
intent draw.
pace is just going to be a little bit much for Real Madrid. It's going to catch them off in the first 15 to 20 minutes, and that's where I think City's going to capitalize. I think if City score in the first 20 minutes, this game is over.
Yeah, and we're going to find out. That game, also, first one on the 7th at 3 o'clock. So I'm not sure which one's going to be on TV here in the U.S., so just take a look out. They might both be on, so hopefully that one's on. That'll be a cracker. And then moving on to the next game, we have Bayern-Chelsea happening on the 8th. Bayern is up 3-0 on away goals. They scored all their goals in London, and now they head home to finalize this most likely. I really don't want to go too much into this one because it's very rare you get those Barcelona comebacks, etc., like things like that. But what do you guys think? Bayern, Chelsea, Tyler, it's your team. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm obviously a huge Bayern supporter, and up until the FA Cup final, I was actually a little concerned because I thought Chelsea was playing really well. And for me, the things that I look at in this game, we haven't played in a month. The last time we played, I think, was the first week of July when we played Leverkusen in a cup final, and our form was incredible. I mean, we've, in my opinion, Bayern has been in the best form in the world up until this end of the season here. But we haven't played in a month. We've been playing exhibition games against teams like Marseille. We haven't had the level of intensity that a Champions League game is going to be at. I do think it's a perfect opportunity for us to get back into it and get in the right mindset. But the other thing I look for is, what is our starting lineup going to look like? Are we going to come out with what we've always been coming out with at the end of the season? Are we going to get Thiago back in the lineup and what's going on with him and his contract? And can Lewandowski resume his great form? I think it's going to be interesting. Unfortunately for Chelsea, they got injured pretty badly in that FA Cup final. I know Willian was hurt the day before the game started. Pulisic is out, and then Azpilicueta's out. I don't think Chelsea stands a chance, and Bayern supporter or not, I think it's going to be a blowout. And it's in Munich. Fans aren't there, but you're still in Munich. I don't know. I just don't see Bayern blowing this lead.
Yeah, Andy?
Well, I mean, for not having played in a month, this is surely the best game that you'd want to be matched up with if you're wanting to play that first game back to ease into things. So, I mean, ultimately, this is going to be a Bayern blowout. Tyler mentioned the injuries earlier for Chelsea. I'll kind of piggyback off of that. You have Conte and Willian who were out before the FA Cup final. Then you have Azpilicueta, Pedro, and Pulisic, arguably your best defender and your best attacking player, who are also out through injury and their hamstrings. So I don't think they're going to be coming back for this game. I doubt they're going to play Conte, just knowing the gravity of this game and not wanting to take a risk. Lewandowski has 51 goals and 5 appearances in all competitions. I don't think you need to say much more than that, but we'll see. If Chelsea can pull it up, that would be amazing for them, and I would definitely tip my hat off to them. But I think this is going to be Bayern's game to just kind of play around and get back into the swing of things.
Definitely, and I really don't have much more to add here on the fact that I do think Chelsea will get on the score sheet. I think Caballero will start, and I say that because Bayern's defense is going to be a little rusty. Regardless of how fast they are, how much like you said, Tyler, they just don't have that Champions League quality gameplay in them. Whereas Chelsea's been coming off a Champions League race for next year. So it wouldn't surprise me if Giroud puts one in the back of net, Tammy or Mason Mount. It wouldn't surprise me. But I still think it's going to be 2-1, 3-1 Bayern. And
well, that's a typical Bayern thing to happen, right? They may give up a goal in the first half, and then it'll kind of be like waking the bear or poking the bear, if you will, and they'll be like, okay, time to get going, and then they'll unleash the beast.
Yeah, and
I mean, honestly, I've watched enough Bayern games. It's a given.
Let me just put it away. Robert Lewandowski being marked by Kurt Zuma, potentially a Rudiger or a Christensen.
And that doesn't even talk about Mueller, Gnabry, or Coman.
In that West Ham game.
Real. So I just don't. Chelsea on the board, I think. 1 goal. But they still lose 2-1, 3-1.
3-1, yeah.
Okay.
They'll be wishing they Sub in Timo for sure.
What's that?
They'll be wishing they could have subbed in Timo.
Oh
Let
yeah,
them sub him in. Let them have him. I
Also,
don't care. It won't make a difference.
one thing I do want to mention about this game is Leroy Sané will not be eligible to play for Bayern because he was
Correct.
registered in the city sheets before the entrance of the Champions League. So just
Yep.
wanted to point that out as well.
Yep. And Coutinho, I hope he gets in the lineup. Anyways,
Yeah, I'd love it. And Zule too. Zule's been hurt for the whole year. He came back against Marseille. I'd like to see him get some time. It's a perfect game for Bayern to either experiment, but I really think Hansi Flick's going to put out the lineup he's been putting out because they need to be able to get up to that quality level of play.
yep. All right. Barcelona Napoli. Also Saturday the 8th at 3:00 Eastern. Potentially, if you look at Man City, Real Madrid, this is probably the second best game of the weekend. Juve has an uphill battle, so that makes that interesting. But when you look at the teams on paper and what Napoli has to play for and what Barcelona's bringing to the table lately, you're really kind of in another perfect little formula here for a great game. Andy, what are your thoughts? Napoli, Barcelona.
But this is going to be a really interesting game. I think Barcelona. You're going to definitely expect to see Barcelona take a lot of possession in this game. But I think Napoli is also a team that they can do really well on the counterattack. They can invite pressure with Kyle Bali leading the defensive line and keeping them in shape. So I think they're going to invite that pressure from Barcelona, and they're going to hit them hard on those counterattacks. And I think with the sprightly team that they have up there, you have Dries Mertens, who's coming off of a hot season so far. He's got 16 goals and 10 assists in 41 appearances. Lionel Messi will obviously be a difference maker in this game, but with the way that Barcelona have been playing recently, you think that, Napoli have a lot to play for. They finished 7th in the Serie A, so you know that they definitely want to play and win this game in order for them to, potentially stay in Champions League next year. So they have a lot to play for. Barcelona haven't been playing too great. They have a couple issues in their dressing room, so I think this could definitely be a good game. And I happen to think that this one is going to be a 1-1 draw, and I think it's going to go into extra time. And I think Napoli is going to surprise them in extra time.
Yeah, and that's important to mention. The first leg of this quarterfinal was a 1-1 draw in Italy. So they're playing in Barcelona. If Napoli gets a goal, it's equaled out. It's negated because Barcelona did the same thing on the other side. So, personally, I think when you look at the Napoli side, of course you have Insigne and Mertens that are going to be game changers, Gallion. I think Ospina needs a good game. And I really think Giovanni Di Lorenzo, if he shows up, he can really make Napoli probably a little bit better of a team here. Because it's going to be a tough Barcelona side to stop on paper. But to Andy's point, it is not the best locker room to be in right now. Barcelona is probably at one of the biggest crossroads they've been at in the past 10, 12 years. And it's going to be interesting to see where that club goes moving forward. But this is a big game for them. Barcelona, if they got to be in the semifinals of the Champions League, or they didn't even win Spain, regardless of how good Real Madrid is. It's just not a successful year, and they need that right now. There's a lot of talk about Messi and the future with how old they are, and Rakitic, and there's just so much going on that they need a win, and they for the club, not even for the season, but the club needs a win, and beating Napoli here, moving to semifinals. Might be the best thing for them. They're still going to have to play Bayern most likely, and we'll see how that goes. But they need to be in the semifinals of the Champions League, or it's a failed year in my mind. Tyler, do you have anything to back that up with?
Yeah, they won't make the semifinals this year because here's the deal. If they get through Napoli, they got to play Bayern next, hopefully, right? And I don't think with the way Barcelona's form is, I think Bayern and Manchester City are the two toughest teams in Champions League right now. And to have to go through one of them is going to be tough, right? This side that we're talking about, this bracket, for those that don't know, the winner of the Juve-Lyon game plays the winner of the Real Madrid and Man City game. The winner of the Bayern-Chelsea matchup plays the winner of the Barcelona-Napoli matchup. That side of the bracket is significantly more powerful than the opposite side of the bracket. I know we'll mention that a little bit later. But I think it's just a tough road for Barcelona to get to the semifinal. If they do, incredibly successful season all of a sudden, right? But the way that the season's been going for them, I think it's going to be difficult to make happen. I don't know that they're going to get through Napoli to begin with. Yes, they have a 1-1 away goal situation coming home to a crowdless stadium, but I think Napoli's a really tricky team to play against. They may not be up highest in the standings in Italy, but they did win the cup there. They did take down Juve, and win the domestic cup in Italy. Andy, you mentioned Dries Mertens having 16 goals in all of his appearances. Well, 6 of those came from the Champions League, and he's tied for third in scoring in Champions League right now. He's only behind Lewandowski and Haaland, who have both had arguably absolutely ridiculous seasons. So that speaks volumes to where Mertens' form is at. And I think that Napoli is kind of the perfect storm for Barcelona. And I think that if you're a Barcelona fan, you really, really have to be concerned about this game. And I agree with Andy. I think Napoli is going to take it out and take it away from them. And it's just going to be the summary of Barcelona's story and the way that this season has been.
All right, Tyler, let me ask you something real quick. We've talked about Barcelona in a couple of our transfer segments now. If you're Satine, you're managing this game, who do you start on that left side, Antoine Griezmann or Ansu Fati?
I do a different formation. I don't do a 4-3-3. I put Messi and Suarez both up top. I'm sorry, not Messi. Griezmann and Suarez both up top as if they're second strikers, with Messi in behind them so that he can be free to roam wherever he's at. And then you crowd the midfield behind there and play the typical defense that they play. That's what I would do. I just think that when they played, it was either Villarreal or Valencia. I want to say Villarreal. They ran that formation. They put up like 4 goals. Griezmann got on the score sheet. Everybody was happy. I think that that's the chemistry that they need to look for and really be able to put pressure on Napoli's defense and Koulibaly. Because if you just have Suarez and that's it against Koulibaly, I think that Koulibaly wins that matchup. But if you throw Griezmann into the mix there, it's a lot different of a defensive tactic that they got to run with.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a valid point. I think first correction. I've been saying quarterfinals. I meant to be like not round of 16, Champions League. Didn't catch it till just then that I've been saying it wrong. But no,
it's like a half and half.
Yeah,
we're in like the second half of the round of 16, first half of the quarterfinals. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm right in between. Thank you, appreciate that. I'm half correct. Anyways, I think Napoli play good enough defense to pull us off in Barcelona, and I see it going 2-1 Napoli. They win on away goals. Just saying.
I do. I think they'll catch them on a counterattack. I know we talked about that with City, but the longer this game goes tied, whether it's 0-0, 1-1, or whatever, the more Barca is going to start to push up, and I think Napoli can capitalize on that.
Yeah, I definitely think that Napoli's defense is I don't want to say underrated, but they don't have big names other than Koulibaly, and it's important to understand that he makes it happen, and they have the wings and De Lorenzo, so we'll just see how it goes, but I don't know.
I think they've got the advantage on set pieces too. We haven't really talked about set pieces too much, but all of these matchups, those are crucial things as well. And when you've got a guy like Koulibaly, who's typically known for his beast defensive work, the man can get on the end of a header as well. And I think that that advantage goes to Napoli in this game too.
So if Koulibaly gets hurt, Napoli's out.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's their leader and their skipper right there. That's a lot to overcome. I would say.
No, definitely. I mean that though.
That's the same as when Azpilicueta went down. I think it would have the same impact, if not more.
I mean, honestly, they only gave up 50 goals in Serie A, and you can say that the Serie A has probably had the most interesting year it's had in the past maybe 6-7 years. So, they have a decent D. They don't put the ball in the net a lot. They counterattack, and I think it's the right team to play because Barcelona's defense is known to be susceptible to a counter. So we'll see. But, yeah, I think that's the games. So in saying that, the already confirmed teams going into the quarterfinal are Atalanta, and they're an Italian team. They've had a great year, and they are playing PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, on August 12th. And Red Bull Leipzig, versus Atletico Madrid, also on the 13th, on the 13th, not the 12th, so the day after. Those teams are already confirmed in the quarterfinals. They play next week. We'll be talking about those game previews then. But, I think it's important to talk about this side of the bracket. I don't see a lot of juice in this side of the bracket. And, when we look at the games that we just reviewed, you got to think a winner's coming out of the teams we just spoke about.
Yeah, one of those 4 teams will be in the final.
Yeah, well, definitely. Andy, what do you think of this side of the bracket?
I think Atletico Madrid will be ones that'll be looked at pretty highly on that side. I think PSG are going to really struggle against Atalanta, and I think that's going to be a really interesting game to watch. And Atalanta's been having a good string of games the past couple of weeks. They also beat Juventus on the last day that they faced them in the Serie A. So, I mean, I think Atalanta are definitely going to be very underrated in this game. Plus, the PSG won't have Mbappe for sure. So, that's definitely going to hurt them a little bit. They still have Neymar, Icardi, and some good attacking options. Plus, they have a pretty good midfield and defensive team. So, I mean, you definitely figure that PSG are the favorites in this one, but I think that one could go either way. But ultimately, I think Atletico Madrid is in the best position so far on that side.
Yeah, definitely. Tyler?
Yeah, for me, I think on paper, people will say PSG is favored, but in my experience watching them in Champions League is always the same story, and I don't think that they get past Atalante. And then I look at Atalante, and they remind me of teams like Ajax and Roma, who in recent years have made deep runs into the Champions League, but I think they're a step ahead of those two teams as well. So I really look at Atalanta as my team to be as an X factor in that group of four, if you will. And I will be rooting for them. I love to root for underdogs all the time. I would not be surprised to see them against Atletico Madrid in the semifinal on that side of the bracket, just because Diego Simeone's system is set up to succeed in Champions League, and Leipzig's going to struggle without Werner. They do have a good team, but without Werner, I just don't see them getting past Atletico Madrid. And so I look at Atalanta and Atletico, and I think that those two teams, it'll come down to one of them, in my opinion.
Definitely. And when we have the full quarterfinal all together, we'll go ahead, we'll do predictions, things like that. But Simeone and Atletico is just a tough train to stop, and we'll see where it goes. But any last notes, anything we missed on this round of 16 games quarterfinal preview?
Yeah. One thing I'd like to say is that with Champions League, I mean, this is the big stage, and this is where a lot of players are able to make their mark. So, we mentioned on one of our transfer segments, we talked about some of the biggest flops, and some of those players are going to be playing here. This is the perfect opportunity for a lot of them to make their mark. And, I think that performances in these next couple of weeks in the Champions League will definitely make for a lot of crazy transfers that might come up also in the summer. So there's still a lot to play for, still a lot of exciting football. I'm excited to break it down with all of you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for me, Champions League is probably my favorite in terms of soccer. I mean, it's the best of the best. You get the best teams out of England, the best teams out of Germany, the best teams out of all the countries around Europe. And I am always so excited to see what goes on. Obviously, as a Bayern fan, I always have high hopes. Coming off a disappointing Champions League run last season, I'm going to be pulling for us this year. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to move forward with each round and keep breaking this down. And it'll be a fun few weeks now that the Premier League's done with.
Definitely. I think my only important note here is Lyon. Lyon have beat Celtic since the restart. They've played in a cup final against PSG, lost on penalties, and they did lose to Rangers, right? So you're talking two Scottish teams there that are the powerhouses of Scotland. I think they're playing the right teams to ramp up, but none of these teams are on the level of Juve, including Paris. But I still think they may be able to pull it off because of Juve's form. I think that's the biggest game to watch for an upset to happen. So tune in. And then, of course, Napoli, Barcelona. I wouldn't even call that as much of an upset these days. So if you're looking for a game to watch, I would tune into Juve Lyon and hopefully watch Juve lose. It's always fun to watch.
Very early predictions. I'm going to throw you on the spot here. I'm not going to ask Tyler because I already know what his answer is going to be. Early favorites. Who do you think is going to win the Champions League? Quick prediction.
Bayern. Yeah.
All right. Interesting. I like it.
How do you feel, Andy? Who do you think is going to be there?
I think it's going to be Manchester City, man. As much as I hate to say it, being a Man U fan, I think Pep Guardiola's got a lot of fire under his team, especially with how the cast decision went. I think that's going to be crazy, and I think that's going to ultimately drive them. But to be honest, I mean, I would not put it past a team like Atalanta, but I just think City is going to be driven to do it this year, especially with all the tribulations they've had.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before the podcast. My hope, I want to see Bayern-Manchester City semifinal. I think that matchup, I think those are the two most favored teams. I think that matchup could be the best possible matchup for, moving into the final. And it's Bayern. Pep used to be our coach. He's now at Man City. There's no ban. I think that those are the two best teams in Europe right now, and I want to see them play.
That's the final before the final,
Exactly.
And you want to see that. I think, Andy, you need to go take all your kits that you've gathered since you were 12 and you need to put them in a pile and just give them away to somebody because you just played
Here's the
6 Champions League.
I went through my clothes the other day, and I have like 16 jerseys.
Yeah, not 4.
I'll tell you what, though, you guys sell us Tiago, and I'll root for you guys in the Champions League.
Whoa.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hopefully he stays.
That's the topic,
I would rather him go to United than Liverpool, but we'll get into that on a transfer day.
right? It's important to know Liverpool's not here, so that's a big giant missing
Down
out.
by Atletico.
Nice job, Atletico. Diego.
Yeah, it's hard not to be an Atletico fan when it comes to Champions League time.
No, it's not. No, it's not. They've ended Bayern's runs too many times for me.
Hey, not my problem. But no, hey guys, it's been fun. I hope everyone enjoys their work week. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, YouTube. Go ahead and check out our Instagram handle, The Reserve Squad. And also, we now are working on a Facebook page here, so we'll have that up shortly. And we'll go ahead and get everything up and running on that. But everyone, big ups. Thank you guys for being here. Hope everyone listening has a great work week. Enjoy the games this week. Talk to you afterwards.
See you guys.